Hi friends, today it's 7th of May 2020 where in many countries the lockdown partly has been removed and many countries are still grappling and battling and so many things that have come up in the media, in the social network. Some people are talking about conspiracy theories, some people are talking about capitalism, some people are talking about the pharma industry as to who is behind all this or whether it is really a situation. Nevertheless, I leave that to the good common sense of people to judge who is behind it. But the most beautiful thing today, on 7th May 2020, it's a full moon. It's the beautiful flower moon, and I urge all of you to look to the evening into the sky and enjoy this beautiful flower moon of 2020 for this year. It will not come again. In fact, this also happens to be a day when Shakyamuni Buddha, Mahatma Buddha, attained enlightenment, achieved nirvana. And that's why it's also called Buddha Purnima. Shakyamuni Buddha was a very, very wise man. So from this wise man, the wisdom of Sanskrit, it is said, bodh hona, kisi cheez ka. So he attained enlightenment, nirvana. And so it was a full moon night under that beautiful sal tree, the people tree that we know in India. And it just reminds me of so many things that human beings have dealt with over a period of time, and also how Shakyamuni Buddha went through suffering and understand the nature of human being and also the pervading scenarios. And he really overcame not only that, but he also led humanity to follow the right path. In fact, it reminds me of a wonderful song in a Hindi movie. Let me try to sing it. And after that, I will tell you two wonderful stories of Buddha. So the song goes like this. ओहरे ताल मिले नदी के जल में, नदी मिले सागर में, सागर मिले कौन से जल में, कोई जाने ना। ओहरे ताल मिले नदी के जल में, नदी मिले सागर में, सागर मिले कौन से जल में, कोई जाने ना। ओहरे ताल मिले नदी के जल में, सूरज को धरती तर से, धरती को चंद्रमा, धरती को चंद्रमा, पानी में सीप जैसे प्यासी हर आत्मा, प्यासी हर आत्मा, मितवारे पानी में सीप जैसी प्यासी हर आत्मा, कौन जाने किस बादल में बूंद छुपे कहाँ। ओहरे ताल मिले नदी के जल में, नदी मिले सागर में, सागर मिले कौन से जल में, कोई जाने ना। Really, the correlating in this song is that where you come from, where do you go, nobody knows. And like the earth seeks sun and the moon seeks earth, and where human being goes, nobody knows, and in which particular cloud the raindrops are stored. I mean, really, so much is unknown. And in fact, Shakyamuni Buddha gave some wonderful ways of dealing and leading life. And he always talked about to use the voice and the word very, very wisely. And he also talked about greed, anger, stupidity, these three poison. So greed, anger, stupidity, gas, and we all know gas is bad. So this is a wonderful story. There was a king in China, and his nephew, Prince Shotoku, was a very wise man. And Prince Shotoku could really always look at the physiognomy of somebody and really foretell the future. And one day the king called him and said, okay, you look at my face and tell me what is stored for me in the future. And this prince was afraid to tell the truth. But after the king really stressed upon that he tells the truth, so the Prince Shotoku says, well, I see the veins, the blood veins in your eyes, and I fear and worry that you could be killed. And listening to this, the king got very angry first and then scared, and then he said, okay, you really gathered the courage, and I insisted that you tell me how to escape it. That time Prince Shotoku said, well, there are 6 paramitas in Buddhism that he followed, and he said one of them is forbearance, that you are able to forbear and not get erasive. And so for a long time king tried to follow, but being erasive by nature, one day from the neighboring country a minister came, and they presented him with a boar, a wild boar which was killed. And that's the time the king took his sword from the scabbard and pierced into the eye of his boar, saying, one of these days this is what we will do to our enemy, not mentioning the enemy. But Prince Shotoku was standing there, and he listened, and he realized that the king has done some blunder. So he tried to buy the silence by giving gifts. But since the word did spread around, and the time came when the king who said this, the uncle of Prince Shotoku, got killed. The Shakyamuni Buddha said that even a ruler on a throne must take care not to give undeserved expression to his thoughts. And also in China, there was a very wise man, Confucius, who said 9 thoughts to 1 word. And Shakyamuni Buddha always insisted that the real meaning is to be live like a human being. The behavior as a human being is the most profound and most important. So not to give undeserved expression to one's thoughts, even if you are a king on a throne. And so what about the common mortal who are not kings and queens? So how much more careful we should be. So this story I really feel is wonderful. And also the art of forbearance, how we can forbear. And now is the time when the things are really becoming very crucial. So forbearance is really needed. So that is the story 1. And the second story I want to talk about is Shakyamuni Buddha. When he was giving sermons from village to village, he became very famous. And during that time in India, they were like the caste system, has been there and was there, and it's kind of now not there, so-called. But there were Brahmanas and Shudra and Vaishya, and all these people, they were there. But Shakyamuni Buddha said, well, the most important thing is human being. These systems are not important. And he became very famous, and people used to come and listen in his gathering. So the so-called powerful people in the village he was visiting, they were very angry and very jealous, and so they decided to disrupt his gathering. So they gathered in one of his assembly where he was giving sermon. And so one of them stood up and said, well, we have seen you yesterday begging. So Shakyamuni Buddha didn't react. And after a few minutes, the other one stood up from the other corner and said, well, we saw you. You went to this prostitute's house and we saw you coming out. And like this, it went on. They did everything to blame and look down upon, so that to sow the seeds of doubts in the mind of other people sitting there against Buddha. So Buddha kept calm and finished his lecture, the sermon. And then these people, they came up to Buddha and they said, well, we tried everything to disrupt your so-called assembly, sabha, and you kept quiet. And so Buddha said, well, it's very natural. And then they said, how is it natural? And the Buddha said, well, let's suppose I come to your house and you offer me a cup of tea. Whose cup of tea is that? Well, they said, well, if you come to our house and you offer the cup of tea, we offer the cup of tea to you and you don't, you have it, then the cup of tea belongs to us. And the Buddha said, fine, and if I don't take that cup of tea, who does it belong to? They said, well, it belongs still to us. In the same, the Buddha said, you came to my assembly, you spoke many things, but my life did not take it. It rejected it. So those words, those things you said, all belong to you. And these people became also a disciple. So often what I really see in this beautiful second story is that so often we get very disturbed, perturbed when somebody says something only. And it is entirely up to us what we receive, what we take. And so if we can learn so many beautiful things, the dynamic philosophy, this Buddhism, to lead a life and overcome all sufferings and really become very happy. I wish you all a very nice Buddha Purnima, and I really hope that you overcome all the problems in your life. Me too. I also am enduring, and that we all live happily in harmony, overcoming and creating this world a better place of peace, success, and a complete oneness with nature. Wish you a great day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.